Howdy ho, neighbor. Welcome to the sweatiest show on the internet. It's called The Sweat alongside Jessie, Coffield. I'm Emerson, Lotzia. We got Royals manager Ned Yost joining us tonight. He's going to tell us how he plans to kind of work his rebuilding magic with that team once again.
Yeah, we'll dive deep into the Sportsbook and DFS side of tonight's 8-game baseball slate. But we'll get going with this DK Live trio. Our NFL panel, Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Andy McNamara. We're calling this NFL Propped Up. Analyzing some of the player props for Thursday night's opener between the Packers and Bears.
Let's start with you, Fowler. Really enjoy your shirt. The Bears traded away Jordan Howard and are going with David Montgomery at running back. He's expected to carry a pretty good portion of the load here for Chicago this season. DK Sportsbook has his rushing yards total at 59.5 again for Thursday night. What are the chances he can get more than that?
Yeah, I think they're really good. When you look at it just in terms of what Chicago has been saying about David Montgomery, how Matt Nagy has come out and said, look, Tariq Cohen probably got too much run towards the end of the season. Last year, they're going to scale back his production over a season-long approach. David Montgomery, I mean, the Bears went up in the third round to get this guy. They really like him in the actual NFL draft. They really like him. And it's a matter of just reading what they're saying about him. Obviously, we don't have anything to go off of. It's the first game of the season, the first game of the NFL. But I like this. I like this for around 12 to 14 carries. He might start off a little bit slow, but I think at minimum, he's going to get you 80 yards on the ground just in terms of the production that he's been able to do. And if you look since 2014, the guy that has the most elusive, over 100 broken tackles in college, twice it's happened, and both times it's been David Montgomery. He's at over 100 yards, or excuse me, over 100 attempts of missed tackles, and that's pretty impressive when you're coming out of college. So, yeah, I like this number a lot.
You like the number a lot as well, Jeffrey?
I don't like it a lot. I think I still would actually lean towards the over. It wouldn't be like my favorite bet of this slate or anything like that, or when you're targeting this game. But I think if I had to choose, I would take the over. I mean, Jordan Howard hit this number twice against the Packers. We're not talking about an elite run defense here, and the Bears are favorites at home. I mean, it's probably going to mean even just a couple more carries for David Montgomery than a normal situation, like in a road game where they were possibly small underdogs. So you factor that in. You factor in it's the start of the year. I think Reed is right. They're not. I don't think Tariq Cohen was ever in for a big carry total. Anyways, his value is in PPR. Mike Davis is going to be involved. That's the one thing that scares me a little bit about this. I do think they'll try and balance out the carries a little bit more than people think. But like I said, Montgomery is a high end back. I mean, especially for a team like the Bears. And I think 60 yards, home opener, their favorites. I think it's doable for sure.
All right, Andy, where do you sit?
Yeah, I'm with the guys on this one here. You look at last year with Jordan Howard, went for 82 yards against the Packers. So it's a little bit like an apples to apples comparison, season opener again. And you go back, Montgomery looks to be a stud. You know he's going to get touches. You know he's going to get workloads. And we know that rookie running backs can come out of the gate hot and make an immediate impact. So I love that number. I'm definitely going over.
Jeff, Aaron Rodgers over-under for touchdown passes in this one is 1.5. Do you think Rodgers can hit the over here with a reinvigorated offense, even though they're going up against that Bears defense?
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I would take the over here as well. And I know it's the Bears defense. And look, they're one of the best at limiting QBs last year. But in half the games, I mean, the opposing quarterbacks threw for 2 or more touchdowns against the Bears. It's not like you can't score on the Bears. It's just you're not going to pile up a ton of yards because they have a good ball control defense or ball control offense, and they're good at limiting the rush. So, but again, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers here, who's obviously in the top half of quarterbacks in the league. And when you're thinking and looking at these numbers and historically the Bears defense and how they performed, I would take the over here. I mean, it's rare that you're going to get a line like 1.5 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers anyways. So even almost regardless of the defense, I'm almost always going to lean towards the over with Aaron Rodgers. There's obviously a few question marks with the new offensive coordinator, but it's Aaron Rodgers. Take the over.
Andy, do you agree Aaron Rodgers just got to take the over here?
It's close, and I hesitated when I first saw this, guys. I did, but then I thought, to Jeffrey's point, too, it's like, man, you know what? It's Aaron Rodgers. It's 1.5. He's got something to prove, right? New head coach. They're going to want to flash. They're going to want to razzle-dazzle a little bit, I think. And Aaron Rodgers, who's been dumped on in the media in the offseason for not getting along with so-and-so and whatever, I think he's going to have something to prove. So I take the over on that.
Reed, 3 for 3 on the over here?
Yeah, and Jeffrey is stealing my tagline with his stupid whiteboard.
Oh,
so
no.
I will say to Jeffrey, Aloha loser. But back to the question. Yeah, I mean, when you look at his average of touchdowns against the Bears, right? He's averaging over 2 touchdowns thrown against the Bears, and I think he's at 45 total against this team. And if you just look at this defense, although they're the number 1 run defense, and they bring back a lot of their guys, they lose some guys in the secondary, and Amos was on the other side with Green Bay Packers, and they got Buster Screen in the slot. So if you're really looking at a stack here and you really like Aaron Rodgers, I think Geronimo Allison too in that slot is going to have a field day. And so at least 1 or 2 might go to him specifically. But yeah, I got the over here.
All right, how about Mitch Trubisky throwing for 171 and 235 yards in their 2 meetings last season. His over-under for this week, though, 244.5. I'm no history major, Andy, but does history tell you that this will be an under?
That's how I'm leaning, and it is interesting to think about, though, because you do have the rookie running back in David Montgomery. How much is he going to play, and how much success is he going to have early? Now, we all think he will, but he might not. And then if you get into a shootout, you have to take that into account. But I just feel with Mitch Trubisky coming into this next year with Matt Nagy, it's going to be an under at least a start. As the year progresses, I think he's going to ramp up, but a slower start. So I'll go under. Okay,
Reed, how about it, bud?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think when you have, what they're trying to do with this team, right? A strong defense, strong run game. Even though Matt Nagy's got a lot of weapons, I feel like a Taylor Gabriel, I feel like Allen Robinson for a bounce back. I still think that when you have a guy like Mitch Trubisky, you want to limit the amount of mistakes that this guy could potentially make. I don't necessarily think he's in the top half quarterbacks just yet. I think he can be, but this offense is going to run through David Montgomery. It's going to run through these short passes. And look, Green Bay has improved their defense a little bit with bringing on the Smiths and the linebackers and having Adrian Amos. And so that's not necessarily the old Green Bay secondary of recent. They're a little bit better this year, so I'm going to take the under here as well.
Okay, Jeffrey, is this a clean sweep again?
I'll be contrarian here and take the over. I mean, I think it really comes down to what you think of Green Bay's offense and how effective they're going to be. Because if Green Bay is a little bit effective and is able to score some points, the Bears are going to have to throw the ball, and they have the weapons to produce. I mean, Mitch Trubisky went on a huge run in the middle of this last season where he had like 3 straight 300-yard games. This team can pass. I mean, this team has the weapons to produce big games in the passing game. They just don't do it very often under Matt Nagy. He's got such a good defense and he likes to run the ball. I still would lean the over. I think Green Bay is going to put up a few points, and I think this is actually going to be a bit more of a higher scoring contest than people realize.
Just interesting. I mean, Reed gave you one of the hardest eye rolls I've seen in the history of this show just a moment ago.
It's nothing new.
It's the same kind of eye roll I did when I saw his fantasy football team this morning.
Oh my God. Okay, before anyone gets hurt, Devontae Adams is the favorite to score a touchdown out of all players at -106. You can get plus money on everybody else. So who do you think is going to find the end zone, Reed?
Yeah, give me plus money. I mean, you're still going to attack Fuller, even though he's going to be on Adams. You're still going to throw to Adams if you're Aaron Rodgers. He's the best guy on the team. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, but I think it's Geronimo Allison. Give me plus money in that slot position.
Jeff, you want the plus money too?
Yeah, I would probably lean towards just going with Allen Robinson because I just feel like the targets with the Bears, they didn't add anyone on the outside. It'd be more concentrated towards Allen Robinson this year. He's a year free from his ACL surgery. I do like the Geronimo Allison pick, though, to be honest, even though it's from Reed. But I think Allen Robinson's a little bit safer.
Andy, where are you going with this one?
I'll take the plus money as well. Adams, I think, is going to score. That is the safe bet. But I'll go, if it's not Allison, you got to, who's been hyped up throughout this offseason? Marquez Valdez-Scantling. His name's too long, but I like him. I think he might be a smart pickup, too.
Yeah, the law firm.
The law firm.
Indeed. We're going to poke over to the DFS side of Week 1 with you three coming up. Right after, we're going to touch on tonight's baseball menu, which is right after Pat Mayo weighs in on this Packers-Bears matchup we just talked about.
The Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears. -3, the Bears are favored at home. 46.5 is the over-under. Tim, we'll start with you, as you were the only one who I think picked the over on the Bears during the win totals.
Tim's also got a lot, like, he's ready to go.
Yeah, Tim has already proclaimed like 8 games
Week
free
1,
money.
last year's perceptions for him are going to become realities this week because for a league where nothing changes overnight, like he'll say in the preview shows, he's very much ready to go for Week 1.
I am. Although I have to say I don't have a very strong lean in this game. I like the I'm going to pick the Bears to cover the number. But, these two teams played last year at the start of the season. The Bears lost in horrific fashion and still managed to win the division, and Green Bay didn't even make the playoffs. So, people like to think a game like this is very determinative, but it kind of isn't. I just look at it with, as a rule, as we'll say all year, on Thursday night, when in doubt, take the home team. Because this is different than most Thursdays. I mean, these teams haven't played since their last preseason game a week ago, so there's been lots of rest. It's not a usual Thursday night, but the Bears at home, they should be able to feed off the crowd a little bit. The defense should play fine. Green Bay's offense is not what it used to be. I mean, people think of Green Bay as a top-tier offense. It is not. It is not as advertised. Once you strip past Rodgers and Adams, it's pretty barren. So do not expect a high-scoring game. I think the under is – I feel far more comfortable taking an under in this game than I do the side. But, outside of quarterback and maybe wide receiver, the Bears are pretty much better at every position. So I'm going to take Chicago.
So as we discussed on the NFC win total show, a lot of, not necessarily turnover luck, just a lot of takeaways for the Bears a season ago. I think it was at 36 was the eventual total. It's just an insane number to try to repeat. So you bring that down a little, you lose some turnover luck, things don't go your way, you don't stay quite as healthy. The strength of schedule is also a bit harder. And let's not forget that Rodgers came back on these guys in the Sunday nighter to kick off week one when basically Rodgers got hurt, and he played hurt the entire season. So I think that Rodgers is going to have a nice bounce back. Just getting rid of Mike McCarthy, I think, is a nice boost, nice jolt to the offense. And losing Vic Fangio is going to make an impact for the Bears defense overall. But the biggest thing here is I think the Packers defense is actually pretty good. That even if they do drop off a little bit, although they should have a better offense than last year, but I kind of agree with Tim that, they might not be the top 5 offense that we remember, but they can still be like a fringe top 10 offense, that their defense will be markedly better. They can stuff the run, which isn't the most important thing, but I do like their DBs. I think they got some nice size back there, and I'm just still not sold on Mitch Trubisky. In these situations, my goal for this year is in a 3-point game that I'm really undecided on, that I don't have a huge takeaway, just pick the better quarterback. Picking the better quarterback, me and the coin. Tailing the coin here. Taking the Packers, +3 on the road.
Hey, it's Adam Kaufman with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Le'Veon Bell learned the hard way, seems Melvin Gordon is too, but sometimes holding out does work out if you're valuable enough to your team. Ezekiel Elliott got paid by the Cowboys. 6-year, $90 million extension that'll keep the 2-time NFL rushing champ in Dallas the next 8 years. He's also the highest paid player at his position in league history, with his total compensation surpassing $100 million through 2026. Zeke's new deal has $50 million guaranteed. That means he just ran by another guy. Todd Gurley held the previous record for backs with $45 million locked in. Owner Jerry Jones admitted Elliott is arguably the boys' best player, and he's confident at 24 he has plenty of good years ahead. After all, one of his predecessors, Emmitt Smith, ran the ball for 13 years in the Big D. Cowboys will open the season Sunday at home against the Giants. Zeke, of course, missed all of training camp when he hunkered down in Cabo, so his workload is expected to be limited, around 20 to 25 snaps in Week 1. So if you're making a lineup, think pretty carefully about that before dropping 9,200. Elliott led the league with 1,434 yards on the ground last year, added another 567 in the air with 77 catches, and he totaled 9 TDs. Now that he is all set, Jones can turn his attention to QB Dak Prescott and receiver Amari Cooper. That wallet's about to get a lot lighter.
All right, let's see what's cooking on the diamond tonight. Getting right to it here. DK Live's Pierce Dietrich on the left, Gary and Thorne in the middle. And the bagel boss, Julian Edlow. What's up, bro? Good to see you, man.
Okay, it's MLB.
I was muted, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was trying to have more of a reaction for you.
It's okay,
Thank
it's
you.
okay. This is MLB
Fail.
Pickoff, pretty simple. So which of the following DK Sportsbook bets do you like more?
Okay, both Jose Barrios and Eduardo Rodriguez have strikeout totals of 5.5 when the Twins visit the Red Sox. Who has a better chance of hitting the over here, Jules? We are in Boston. I can tell you, I think there's some weather issues outside.
Oh.
Yeah, not the best night. But between these two pitchers, I think that Barrios is in the better spot, and he hasn't been pitching all that well lately in terms of ERA, but he has gotten over this number in 5 of his last 7 starts. Both guys had a lot of success against the other team the only time they faced them this season.
Eduardo Rodriguez didn't pitch all that well in terms of runs allowed, but he did squeak out the win. Berrios was lights out for 8 innings against the Red Sox in Minnesota earlier this year. I trust Berrios to be able to go deeper in the game, which helps add some value here. And just in terms of pure strikeout ability, Berrios has been doing better of late despite his issues. So I'm just going to take the better pitcher here.
All right, Gary and Jose hitting the over or Eduardo. Which one you like?
Yeah, I'll say Jose Berrios, but it's not even really me loving the spot for Berrios tonight. It's more just I want nothing to do with Eduardo Rodriguez on this slate. I mean, there are so many different ways that he doesn't get to this number. First and foremost, the Twins just don't strike out all that much. They have the 6th lowest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching of any team in baseball this season at just under 21%. On top of that, they are arguably the best team in baseball at hitting left-handed pitchers. They have the highest isolated power. They're second in WOBA. They're second in WRC+. Mitch Garver not being in the lineup doesn't help that fact, but they have enough bats who have just been destroying in right-on-left situations this season that I'm not really all that concerned about them missing out on Garver here. And really, if you look back through Erod's last 9 games, his swinging strike rate is down below 10%. His overall strikeout rate is under 19%. He's just not been the guy that people think he is, or that the odds might tell you he could be. So I'd much rather go with Berrios here.
All right, Pierce, can you make any kind of argument for Eduardo?
Well, let me translate what Gary and Julian just said. They're not picking either of these guys. No one wants to play
picked Berrios.
Dudes. They're not going with them. And I know the question that everybody really wants to know is, who's the umpire in this game?
Oh, let's go!
Hey!
And it's a pretty neutral umpire, so you're not going to get any edge there. You look at all the projection models, you've got Eduardo going just slightly over this number and Berrios going slightly under this number. I wouldn't feel comfortable making either one of these plays.
Okay.
I literally made the argument for Jose Berrios and why I was picking him.
I think Gary kind of leaned that way as well.
No, I'm with Pierce. I don't like either of these bets, but one of them's plus money and one of them's minus 143. So I'll at least take the plus money if I have to.
All right, well, Jules, thank you for playing along.
No problem.
Emerson, relax. Gary, and we haven't seen the Royals as a favorite too many times this year, but they're at minus 230 against the Tigers. So would you rather take a shot at the Detroit money line, which is plus 200, or the odds that Royals starter Jacob Junis to get the W for plus 350?
1,000 times over Jacob Junis.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't even close. I don't want to bet on Edwin Jackson. Is really what you could boil this down to in 4 seconds. But look, Junis has been okay against Detroit so far this season. 19 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts, and I think the big correlating factor here is he just uses his slider more than almost any other pitcher in baseball. It's up over at 44.1% usage. In Detroit, other than Kansas City, who Junis can't face, is the worst American League team when it comes to hitting sliders. I just think this is a really good matchup for him. And in terms of other ways to bet this game, you're essentially there's some other circumstances here, but you're essentially asking, do I think Kansas City first 5 is a good bet? And just for the sake of argument, that's minus 162 on the DK Sportsbook. So I don't love Kansas City's bullpen, but at plus 350, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope they can hold on to a W for Junis.
Pierce, is this a good enough spot for Junis that you're interested in this?
Junis is probably a safe play, and I just can't lay that kind of money on the Royals. But I'm going to go with Edwin Jackson. Fun fact about Edwin Jackson. In the greatest sports video game of all time, MVP Baseball 2005, Edwin Jackson, number 3 prospect. I know Garion loves that stat right there. He's behind Jeff Francis and Joe Mauer. Here's the thing. Jackson can get it done. He's won 3 games this year, and in those 3 games, he just ended up on the right side of BABIP. One of those games was against Kansas City. So you pray to the BABIP gods. They put the ball in the play. They hit it right at players. They hit pop-ups. They hit in the double plays. It can happen. I'd rather chase the money in this case.
Jules, Jackson has struck out just 15% of batters.
Look, I really like Pierce, but that might be one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard on this show, because I think this is literally a mistake on the DK Sportsbook. The Tigers are plus 200 to win. The Royals are minus 230 to win. This is supposed to be Edwin Jackson plus 350 to record the W, and have Jake Junis be minus 106. Edwin Jackson is at minus 106. I literally think that this is a mistake. You're getting the team that is minus 230 to win the game, and taking the pitcher to record the win at plus 350, that doesn't make sense. You have to take plus 350 on Jake Junis here.
Okay. Guys, running tight on time. If you could speed up a little bit, that'd be wonderful. Last one here, though. Ding Dong Machine. Cody Bellinger is the biggest favorite of all players to hit a home run tonight at plus 220. I believe he's gone off the reservation in 2 of his last 3 games. You think he does it again? And if not, who do you see having the best chance to homer from this slate? Pierce.
Well, I like Carlos Santana tonight. We're going to talk about him in the next segment, so I'll keep it short. He's got good BVP numbers against Ivanova. He's hitting well against righties, and as Garion likes to mention, left-handed bats do pretty well at Cleveland.
That's a great tease, Pierce, for later in the show. Julian?
I think Bellinger is fine. I'll look at Nolan Arenado here at, I think, plus 295. He's 14 for 26 off Ryu in his career with 4 homers. Ryu's been terrible in his last 3 starts, 18 totals of runs allowed. I think Nolan Arenado is a good bet here to go yard.
Garion, do you like Bellinger's odds, or is there someone else's odds you like more to go yard?
I don't necessarily love the odds at just 2-1, but I think he's going to hit home runs, so I'm fine with it. I mean, Antonio Senzatella has been beat up by lefties. He's got an identical WOBA on the road and at home, which is hard to do for a Colorado pitcher. Incredibly high zone contact rate as well, which is really what you're looking for when it comes to home runs. So I'll take plus 220.
All right, you 3 hang tight. Need you for some hot or not coming up. But first, we got Brendan Glasheen catching up with a former Pats tight end, talking about the season ahead in the AFC East.
Patriots get the Steelers to open their season. It's a game week, and you must love that on the air to have a game week, the X's and O's break down up until Sunday night. But no Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown for Pittsburgh. So that's a huge change. Is this addition by subtraction for the Steelers?
You know, here's what stands out to me with the Steelers. I just felt like internally, like Mike Tomlin, it was like a circus atmosphere. It was just who was in charge, who wasn't in charge, whose feelings were getting hurt, who was upset they didn't get an award. Older guys fighting with younger guys, even going back to the whole taking a knee when DeCastro came out and the whole team was supposed to stay. It's been like one issue after another. And I look at Antonio Brown sometimes with the Raiders and sit there and go, wow, it wasn't Mike Tomlin's fault. So I'm curious to see how this team how they are run without Antonio Brown. It may seem like it's only one guy. How can one guy be such a dark cloud over this team? I've been on a bunch of them. I played long enough to know that one guy can't completely just screw everything up. So they're talented. Again, Ben Roethlisberger is still their quarterback. They still have a lot of talent, receiving, tight end. I mean, really, you talk about they have the holy trinity with the receiver, the tight end, and their backs. And Ben, they'll put some points up. But the Patriots, unfortunately for the Steelers, have one of the best defenses in the league. And another good thing for the Steelers, though, is they don't have Gronk, and Gronk is a Steeler killer. Over years, he destroys the Steelers.
So how will Antonio Brown now fare in Oakland? Or maybe I should put it the other way. How will the Raiders fare with Antonio Brown on their roster?
I think this is a dumpster fire waiting to happen.
Okay.
This has disaster written all over it. And John Gruden, hey, give him credit. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's gotten a lot of attention. He's a showman, so he's working the crowd. He's working the team. A whole knock on wood, if you hear me. That's going to get so old when they lose 3 in a row. Hey, knock on wood if you hear me. No one's going to knock on wood. They're going to be competitive, but they're not going to be good.
Let's go to Le'Veon Bell now. He is now in the AFC East. The Patriots will see him twice as a member of the New York Jets. How does he fit in schematically with Adam Gase running the show?
Well, this one's going to be interesting because, first of all, he's really good, and the Patriots have a lot of experience dealing with him. And not only is he good out of the backfield, just running the football, but he's good as a receiver. And to me, that is what always challenges and stresses out defenses, is finding a player that can cover a skill set like Le'Veon Bell. The guy out in Carolina, running back, again, I'm like...
McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey is that type of player. James White is that type of player. So you got to find a guy who can cover him, okay? And Jamie Collins used to always be that guy. But most teams don't have a Jamie Collins. So you need like a guy that's a linebacker who can stay on the field during run situations, but still is athletic enough to cover a back running routes. like they just don't make those guys anymore because if you run it at them, they get pushed around. And if you decide to pass on it, okay, you keep flipping and flopping it, and eventually the offensive coordinator will guess right. So I think he's going to be huge for them, especially with Sam Darnold going into the second year, who everyone thinks is just the guy. You know, like he's figured it out. I don't believe it yet. A new coach, new system.
And we don't know if the coach really likes Le'Veon Bell being on the team. Remember the comments in the offseason. We'll see. It seems they've got around on that now.
I think once he starts, well, first of all, he hasn't played at all.
Yeah.
So, which is the new norm. But at least he's not holding out like all these other running backs. But
we'll get to that.
We'll see.
Okay. we'll get to that for sure. Let's stay in New York, though, because there's a bit of a quarterback controversy brewing for the Giants. It is looking like Eli Manning is going to be the starter in Week 1. How short is the leash, and can Daniel Jones play?
Daniel Jones can play, but again, I would pump the brakes because it is preseason.
Yeah.
And a guy like Daniel Jones should dominate the preseason. He should destroy because the guys that he's going against are second string or backups or undrafted or journeymen. He should dominate that, and he did. I think what was crazy is that everybody was like yelling and screaming and bitching and complaining that they took Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like, oh, I wasn't the one who complained. I liked him all along because they realized that he's actually pretty good. And now Eli Manning is actually, like, I think, feeling it a little bit. So how long will he last? I think the first sign of we're struggling and Eli can't bring us back, they put him in. Because why wait? Like, I know he won you 2 Super Bowls. I know that, there's a lot of loyalty there to him. But, I mean, I just don't see why they would waste the opportunity if they felt like the season was even close to going in the other direction, that they wouldn't put him in and see what they could get out of him.
And outside of Saquon, it feels like they have a ton of question marks offensively, the Giants.
Yeah, and I know. And Saquon's a different back than Le'Veon Bell because he's more of just a contemporary, traditional eye back, still different variations of formations, but he's not much of a pass catcher other than he screens that they'll run with him. But he is a beast. It's remarkable, that guy. I loved him in college, and I love him even more in the pros.
Christian, it wouldn't be a Week 1 preview if we didn't mention Ryan Fitzpatrick winning yet another starting quarterback job.
Fitzmagic.
The Miami Dolphins choose Fitzmagic over Josh Rosen, who they gave up a second-round pick for. He was drafted 10th overall last year. What does this say about Rosen? But more so, I guess, the question about Fitzpatrick. You've seen him play for a long time now. Right move by Miami?
I think it says more about Brian Flores than anything as far as what his mentality is going into this season. I think if you go with Josh Rosen, you know that there's going to be a lot of yips, there's going to be some ups and some downs, and do you really want to go through a developmental process with Rosen after you've basically traded everybody away? So you need a guy with strong leadership that has dealt with the pressure and dealt with the ups and downs, and I think that's his, for the short term, sleep at night pill. Now, I think he's going to see Brian Flores, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I think he will see, how far Brian Fitzpatrick can take him. Now, if he starts throwing, picks like he does, he'll throw 6 touchdowns, and next week he'll throw 7 interceptions.
Right.
So, good luck on that wild toad ride, but I think that's a similar case. Once he knows that the season is over and Fitzpatrick can't help him anymore, then I think it's time to see what do you have with Josh Rosen. I mean, the guy is basically a rookie all over again. So you cut him some slack that way.
Sure, they just traded so many pieces. I would say the same about Eli. Is Fitzpatrick in a position to succeed?
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's not his job. His job, I think, is just to keep the fire from getting worse and to bring as much stability to that team as possible. And I was thinking about this. So the Dolphins, with all the guys that you mentioned that they're trading away, they feel like the Houston Astros, when the Houston Astros were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, they just gutted their farm system. They traded everybody, said, we're starting over. They end up winning the World Series, and they're always in contention with all their young players that they decide to develop. By trading away Tunsil, Kiki Alonso, oh, God, it just
Kenny Stills, the receiver. Yep.
That is their core leadership group. But Brian Flores has said, we're starting over, even with the guys that we liked. It just needs to be scraped, and we need to build a new home.
So you're saying 2022 Super Bowl champions.
Is that how long it took the Astros?
I think 3 years about, right?
Yes. Dolphins are back,
Mark
and
the
they
tape.
were all happy. Yeah,
Okay.
Mark tape.
All right, up in Buffalo, we'll go to the final AFC East team. Again, a team you see a bunch. Josh Allen, the quarterback there, showed some promise with his mobility. A year of regression or a year of growth here coming up for Josh Allen?
Okay, so you would assume year of growth. You would think, okay, year of regression. Wow, it's a rookie quarterback, same offensive coordinator. With Brian Daboll, who was in the Patriots system in Alabama all over the place, but he's running that show. I was never a fan of Josh Allen. I'm not a believer in Josh Allen. But he runs, look at him yards. I don't want my quarterback to run for that much. That means that he knows he can't make the throw. He was late dissecting the throw, and he says, you know what, I'm just going to make something out of nothing, and at least I'll get a first down, live to fight another day. I just don't think he's very accurate. I think he's got a hell of an arm. So what? I mean, that means nothing. People get so caught up in, look, he threw from his knees and 70 yards. Like, so what? Can he anticipate? Can he adapt with different receivers and defenses? And can he throw on with anticipation? There's just so many things that go into it. But I think out of all the teams out of the AFC East, Dolphins being in last, it's going to be a fight for second. And I think it's going to be between the Bills and the Jets.
Yeah, you can't ignore Buffalo's defense.
No, I think they have the right mentality, and they just keep, despite their atmosphere, because who wants to live in Buffalo? I'm sorry, like tumbleweeds everywhere. Wait, who sees this, by the way? Is this shown in Buffalo? When they see this, don't mention me. But to me, like they're trying the right way. They're doing it the right way, and they don't get any respect whatsoever because they haven't won in so long. And the Patriots flat out own them every single time. It's almost like they need to wait till Brady retires, which I guess maybe they should change their plans because it doesn't look like he is.
Hey, it's Adam Kaufman, and this is your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Just a quick question. How much do you think the Raiders wish they could rid themselves of Antonio Brown? Or better yet, wish they'd never acquired him in the first place? Brown did what he does, which means he whined about something, went to social media, or in today's case, both, as he posted a letter he received from Oakland GM Mike Mayock that detailed about $54,000 in fines for missing time during training camp. The wideout wrote, in part, "Everyone got to pay this year." Mayock's message included some advice. Quit bagging out of your responsibilities, or as the letter more politely said, the Raiders reserve the right to impose additional fines and discipline if he continues to miss mandatory team activities like practices and games. Although it doesn't look as though he's going to be out week 1, so at least you can feel good about that if you want to play him. But Brown's been a headache, which isn't even a joke, by the way, considering he's complained this summer about having to wear a new helmet instead of the one that he wore the last 9 years in Pittsburgh. And he's been a pain. And I don't mean the type of pain he's been in while recovering from frostbite for ignoring other guidance about proper footwear and cryogenic chamber. These are real stories, by the way. Raiders got Brown from the Steelers in March for 3rd and 5th round picks. I know the guy caught 100 balls for 1,300 yards and 15 TDs last year, but John Gruden, they want to give him back soon.
We already took a look at player prop bets for week 1, but now we're going to switch gears to fantasy. Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and Andy McNamara are back, but we're playing NFL over-under. So, guys, based on these players' fantasy point averages from last season, will they put up more or less? No, Andy. More or less than that this week. So just Jeff and Reed.
Okay, that works for me. We're going to miss you, Andy.
Terrible, guys.
Gone too soon, bro.
Oh my God, he's just not in the
First
segment.
up,
Jesus Christ.
First up, Patrick Mahomes averaged 28 fantasy points last season. Wah, wah. Jeff, will he go over or under that mark this week in Jacksonville? Come on, give me the obvious.
I'm going to say over. I know. Look, it's not that I don't think that Jacksonville's going to win this game, because I do, but I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout here. I mean, you have a higher-paced offense in Jacksonville. They should be running this year with the new offensive coordinator. We know Nick Foles is going to put up points. It's going to force Patrick Mahomes into being Patrick Mahomes. And look, he put up 313 yards and ran for a touchdown last year against the old Jacksonville Jaguars, the guys who used to just try and run and kill the clock here. So I think it's extremely doable. I'm not expecting like his best performance ever, but look, I mean, he averaged 28 fantasy points last year. I do think that this game is going to go over the total. So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go over that total too.
All right, Reed, you expect a shootout as well, and you expect this dude just to kind of go off, but the Jaguars obviously keep up and score one more point.
Well, Jeff, what leads us to believe that this Jacksonville team is this newly high-powered offense just because Nick Foles is there?
Excuse me? Just because Nick Foles is
Exactly. What else do you have? What else do you have? Nothing. I mean, this Dolphins is going to be better. Let's get the one thing straight. The Blake Bortles Jacksonville Jaguars is out, but we don't know yet exactly. Nick Foles is a way better quarterback than Bortles, but he had a way better team in Philadelphia with their pass catchers, and they're going to be run first. I think Mahomes goes under this number. Like, Mahomes had some huge games last year, some 6-touchdown games last year, that obviously increased this average up. I don't necessarily think that he needs to, throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. I do think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring, but I don't think it's going to be a shootout necessarily. I think both of these teams do have really good run offenses. It remains to be seen how LaShawn McCoy, and for all you Damian Williams owners out there, is how that's going to shake out.
Yeah.
But I even think that Patrick Mahomes might even run for a little bit more. We saw an average of 4 carries last year. They might want to switch it up, even though they have the fastest team in the NFL. I don't necessarily think he has to throw for all of these touchdowns. This is a strong. I don't know why I'm so part. Like, I'm the one backing the Jaguars here.
Thank you.
But this is a strong defense. I think they keep Patrick Mahomes a little bit tightly compact in that pocket there, and I don't see him going over 28.
And that running back,
Patrick Mahomes. That's all we needed to hear. Okay.
that running back on your roster too, Shady McCoy, like nothing.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah.
Free Shady.
Okay. Nick Chubb averaged 13 fantasy points in 2018. Do you see him going over or under that mark against the Titans, Reed?
Yeah, I think he goes over. I really like Nick Chubb in this game. Even though Tennessee has a good defense, their run defense with Jayon Brown, Rashad Evans now getting a little bit more experience in his second year. I think this linebacking core is good. I think this defensive line is really good. So I think this run defense is strong, but Nick Chubb in this offense, like Freddie Kitchens, OBJ, Baker Mayfield, all of these guys want to flex their offensive muscle. They want to show everyone. All of this talk in the preseason has been about the Browns. They don't want to put up a dud. I think Nick Chubb is the engine that drives this train. Even though OBJ is going to ball out, I still think Nick Chubb can easily get more catches. This is backfield. Can easily get close to that 100-yard mark and get into that 16 to 18 elite type of carry running back. So, yeah, I think he hits this.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there is actually a pretty wide range of outcomes here for Nick Chubb in week 1. I mean, Tennessee's obviously a really good rush defense. They didn't allow a single receiving touchdown to opposing running backs last year, which is kind of interesting. They're pretty good at protecting against the pass, the running back out of the backfield, which kind of downgrades Nick Chubb a bit. But look, increased market share for Nick Chubb in a good offense. And let's not forget, the Browns are at home and favored by 5.5 points right now. I mean, this is a really good setup for Nick Chubb, who's, again, a year removed from an ACL injury. I think that if he finds the end zone, he's going to hit this easily. And I think there's a very good chance of him finding the end zone, given what I just said about the point spread and point total that we're looking at here. So I'm going to take the over. But again, he is setting up as a little bit of a boomer bust play for week 1 anyways. I think he's going to be fine the rest of the season just because of Tennessee's strong run defense.
All right, cool. Jeff, let's talk about Keenan Allen here. Put up an average of 16 fantasy points last year. Is he going to go over or under that number against the Colts?
I couldn't really think of a logical way to argue for the over here. I mean, I'm definitely going to take the under. I mean, the Colts were the number 1 team in guarding against the wide receiver position just from a fantasy perspective last year in limiting points. And even though they have like some corners that you just really probably most people wouldn't even recognize their names if you said them out loud, but this is just a strong defense, and they're going to probably devolve into a little bit more of like a run first, defense first team without Andrew Luck there. So that's kind of the ball the Chargers play too. I'm not expecting either of these teams to be playing at a fast pace this year. It just spells not great fantasy environment for a guy like Keenan Allen. So could he go over and end up with like 10 targets and find the end zone? Sure, but I'm definitely taking the under here.
Where you going, Fowler? Guy's going to cost you $7,300 on DK.
Yeah, I'm with Jeff here. I think when you look at Keenan Allen, there's obviously some injury question marks that he has with that high ankle. He should be fine and good to go, but if you look at this offense with Hunter Henry back in, the Colts, although a strong defense against wide receivers, they only allowed the 5th least amount of touchdowns to wide receivers at 12 last season. They give up the most receptions to tight ends. And now you get Hunter Henry, someone that, I'm really high on this year, and especially in this offense with Phillip Rivers, who targets his tight ends in the red zone quite a bit over his career. That's where Keenan Allen makes his money. That's where he gets his points. He's not a big yak guy. He's a big reception guy, but he's not a big yards guy, and he gets the end zone. So I really think that this offense is going to be much more spread out. You don't have Melvin Gordon there, so you have to spread it out a little bit more amongst the pieces. I really don't think so. I think Hunter Henry has a better chance of getting in the end zone and getting close to this number than Keenan Allen does.
All right, running out of time here. Got to be quick on this last one. Reed, Zach Ertz averaged 18 DK points last season. Do you see him going over or under that mark when he faces Washington on Sunday?
Now, this team has too much talent. They have too many pieces on that offense that can really score, so I'm going to say under.
Jeff, over or under?
I'll take the over. Zach Ertz has done well against the Redskins. And for all the talk about the other guys, I mean, this is the Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz team. He's still the focal point, especially with Carson Wentz there. So I'm going to take the over here. I think he's actually kind of a sneaky play heading into week 1.
Thank you, guys. You are free to go. Coming up, we're going to turn our attention back to baseball. You can watch my interview with Royals manager Ned Yost, who is apparently really big into taxidermy. Plus, our baseball panel will wrap the show up with MLB Hot or Not.
That's coming up after we turn it over to the Panel B podcast.
Jared Goff got a lot of money, the most money, at least in terms of guaranteed in NFL history, from a team who we praise from a coaching standpoint always being kind of ahead of the curve. From a front office standpoint, though, this seems different. This seems off. This doesn't seem
why
wild.
that much money right now?
Why now? Like, when I first saw the deal, the first thing that came to mind is this just ruined it for the rest of the league, because now it's going to be trying to top that when other guys need to get paid. Well, if Jared Goff's the most expensive, the most guaranteed money, like, now we're going to keep topping that. And this is kind of like what's happened with baseball. It's like, we get that huge contract with Harper. Now it's when the next guy comes along, if it's Mookie Betts, okay, we have to top the Harper contract now. And it's just like over and over and over. And for Goff to be the guy that's kind of the standard now, like, we're going to see these contracts higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, I mean, this has happened before because, I mean,
of course,
Flacco, Dalton, they've gone to these. But I think we thought the Rams would be smarter than this.
Yeah.
It seems that we were wrong to think that.
I don't understand it at all. I don't even think that Goff is that good.
Right.
McVay is a very good coach and helped him grow and definitely made him a better player than he was under Jeff Fisher. I don't think he's the same quarterback that he was as a rookie under Jeff Fisher. He's definitely improved. But he's somewhere in between what we saw last year and what he was as a rookie, just in terms of his pure talent. So how long is this going to last? The Rams are a very good example of a team that should regress a little bit this year off of, that unbelievable season that they had last year, especially offensively. So I just think it's a really bad time for that deal, because you're going to see him take a step back and he's not going to be worth anywhere close to that contract.
Well, he's got good receivers, though. Cooks,
he does. So
Woods,
what happens when
Cobb.
he doesn't have good receivers? What happens when Todd Gurley takes the step back that we all think he's going to? He was the number 1 overall pick in most drafts last year. Now he's a third rounder. Without Gurley in the same type of role or able to produce the way that he was producing last year, is Goff going to be able to be the same player?
But I think that's why they drafted Henderson. Like, that was the idea.
They definitely needed something behind him, but they might need that elite, running back like Saquon, like Zeke, to help Goff be the player that he was.
All righty, Ned Yost, manager of the Kansas City Royals. What's good, my friend? You doing all right?
We're doing all right, hanging in there. Weather's good. Not too hot, not too cool. Beautiful Kansas City.
That sounds like it's perfect weather then when it's not too hot and not too cool.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you. Thanks for joining DraftKings, though, man. It's good to have you here. I want to go back to the beginning for you, though. Joining the Royals in 2010, they were amidst their worst stretch as a franchise here. I'm talking like 9 consecutive losing seasons. So what was the first thing you knew you had to change in that clubhouse?
Again, I think more than anything else, when I first came over, I wanted to know what players did we have in the minor leagues that we could win a championship with. And they kind of looked at me like we were, like I was crazy. I said, what guys do we have? And they started naming up, well, we've got, Mike Moustakas, we've got Eric Hosmer, we have Salvador Perez, we've got some good young pitchers in Kelvin Herrera, we got Will Myers, and I'm taking all these names down because I've never seen these kids before and had the opportunity that spring to go watch them. But, I just think that the group that we had in 2010, you knew that you weren't going to be moving forward with them. So the most important thing, I think, more than anything else, is that this group and all groups have to play hard for your fans. I mean, your talent level will take you to where it takes you, but there's no excuse for not playing hard and for not hustling. And that was the one thing that we had to, be really concerned with was, is this group showing up every day to give everything that they have for our fans, because they're paying good money to watch us. We need to go out and give our best effort every single day. So, there were times where, guys would get down a little bit. You had to keep pushing, making sure that they showed up every day, both mentally and physically ready to play.
Yeah, well, you pushing them paid off, and they did show up to play, especially in 2014. You end that playoff drought here, man, and you grab a wild card. It was an incredible run during that last month of the season. How were you able to make up so much ground?
Well, I just think our young guys kind of came into their own. And I'll tell you a little story. I've been through these rebuilds a number of times.
Yep.
And the thing that I've found, my experience is that by the time you get a group of kids together, it takes them about 2.5 years to establish themselves in the big leagues. And 2013 was about the 2.5-year mark. And we were 3 games under 500 going into New York. At that point, I'm thinking at the All-Star break, I thought, okay, this is where we're going to take off. We're going to sweep the Yankees. We're going to get 500 from the All-Star break, and then we're going to go. And we went into Yankee Stadium and lost all 3. So we went into the All-Star break 6 games back. And I'm thinking, okay, it may take this group a little bit longer. But from that point on, through the World Series in 14, we won more games than anybody in baseball. So that's when they started to take off. That's when they started to believe in themselves and, start to be able to understand what it takes to win. And, all the time we kept teaching guys, what does it take to win? What do you got to do to win? What do you got to do to win? And we got to the point in 2014, especially from the All-Star break on, you just let them go because they understood what it took. They knew how to win, and they wanted to win.
Yeah, I know you guys make it to the World Series. You lose to the Giants in 7 games, but hey, everything works out in the end, right? And you win it all the following year, first time for the team since 1985. That was like the same year the Goonies and Back to the Future came out. I mean, how hard was it to keep that momentum, though, from the 2014 season? Or did you feel like you had unfinished business and these guys didn't need you to push them as much?
No, we definitely had unfinished business. And we felt like, we felt if we could have somehow eliminated Madison Bumgarner, we'd have won the World Series in 2014. And I think everybody agrees with that. What he did was unbelievable. I mean, he about single-handedly beat us himself. But, going into that next spring, our guys, knew that we had unfinished business. It hurt. I can remember walking into the clubhouse after Game 7 and the despair and the disappointment. And what it feels like, we've all seen people that climb Mount Everest, how grueling it can be. And when they get to the summit, it's it's a period of great rejoice because you've worked so hard to get there. Well, that's what it's like when you go to the World Series. All year long, it feels like you're climbing Mount Everest. And when you get to Game 7 and lose, you feel you're 25 feet from the point in the mountain, and somebody turns around and kicks you, and you roll all the way back down. So
that sounds dangerous.
It's a hard road to hoe, but you just know that going into 15, you got to start all over. And we've got unfinished business to go, and we want to go that last 25 feet.
I know it sucked probably watching Bumgarner, the way he treated your team, but was there part of you, though, who kind of still sat back and you're like, what I'm witnessing is incredible, what he was able to do to your talented ball club?
Yeah. Yeah, it was tremendous. And as a matter of fact, he pitched Game 5 and shut us out in San Francisco to give them a 3-2 lead. And we had to walk to do our national press conferences. You had to walk across the field and go through their dugout to get to the media room. So I remember walking through the field, going into their dugout, and he was doing an interview there. And by the time I got to Madison, he was done with his interview, and I just patted him on the shoulder and said, Madison, I said, that was an awesome performance today. I mean, just unbelievable, the performance that you put forth. And he threw 120 pitches. So I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, you know what? Great job. You've had a great World Series. I'm sure glad we don't have to see you again. Little did I know that he would surface again in Game 7.
Okay, let's bring this thing home with our baseball panel. DK Live's Pierce Dietrich, Gary Thorne, Julian Edlow. This is MLB Hot or Not. So you think the following players will be hot, exceed expectations, or be a disappointment? I gave you the snowflake, and before you start talking, we should announce that the Twins and Red Sox game has been delayed a little bit. Some of the reporters there saying nothing official, but hearing expected start time 7:45 or 8 o'clock. So just something to keep in mind.
Yes, again, that's not official. So Carlos Santana has been super hot and cold lately. Which one do you think he's going to be tonight, Pierce?
I'll go with hot. He's got 2 home runs his last 4 games. He's hit well at home, 380 WOBA, 280 ISO. The ballpark favors left-handed bats. He's facing Ivan Nova, 1.6 home runs per 9 against lefties. Obviously, it's not the greatest spot ever, but there's not a lot of super great spots on the slate tonight. He's probably in one of the better spots.
Okay, Gary, and you think he's going to be hot too?
Yeah, I really like the spot. And I think Nova's the type of pitcher you ideally want to have Carlos Santana face, because for as great a skill in real life as his patience at the plate is, sometimes for the purposes of DFS, it gets a little bit annoying when you roster Carlos Santana and he walks 3 times in a game. Ivan Nova is a pitcher with a high zone rate. He's a pitcher with a low walk rate. He's going to throw strikes. And he's also got a high zone contact rate up at 91.1%. That's a great combination for someone like Santana, especially a version of Santana that's going to get to bat left-handed, where he's always had more power throughout the course of his career. So I think this is a really good spot for Santana.
Jules, 3 for 3 on Santana being hot tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily love the price tag at 5,200. Ivan Nova, I guess, has been a little bit better in the second half of the season, just to give a little pushback. But for the most part, for all the reasons these guys said, I think Santana's in a really good spot, and he's actually hit Nova well in a small sample in his career. 7 for 18 against him, a pair of doubles, a pair of home runs. So no reason to believe that Carlos Santana hitting third in the Indians lineup tonight can't be a good play.
How about Hyunjin Ryu? He was awful in his last few starts. Regression really hitting this guy. Is he going to rebound tonight against the Rockies, Gary? And any reason to believe he will?
Look, I think he'll pitch well tonight. Whether or not that makes him DFS viable is a little bit of a different story, because he's someone who, even when he was pitching at the level that made him the National League leader in the Cy Young candidacy, he's still only exceeded 25 DKFP twice in his last 14 starts. He's just not a high strikeout pitcher. And Dave Roberts has a very quick hook, especially with the Dodgers having not a lot to play for. But I think this is really kind of just like the perfect storm for Ryu. He had 2 of 3 starts on the road. We know he's been a beast pitching at Dodger Stadium so far this season. And he's faced the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. I mentioned the Twins are just a beater of worlds when they get a left-handed pitcher on the mound. The Diamondbacks and the Yankees are right up there with the Twins. Like, these are bad matchups for a left-handed pitcher. He just happened to get 2 in a row. So I think he's going to be fine. I'm not really interested in using him on this slate because I don't need 22 DraftKings points, but 1 earned run, 7 innings, and 5 strikeouts is fine too.
All right, what do you think here, Jules? Because this is a guy who found himself in the midst of a 2-man race for the NL Cy Young Award not too long ago.
Yeah, and he's still in that race, pretty neck and neck if you go by the DK Sportsbook odds with Max Scherzer. But 3 starts ago, Ryu was definitely the favorite here. And then he just crumbled and has been terrible, taking 3 losses and letting up a lot of runs in those last 3 starts. This is a guy that I don't trust right now. Look, he's having a Cy Young caliber season, but Ryu wasn't even in the preseason odds on the DK Sportsbook to be in the Cy Young conversation. So his talent level kind of doesn't belong with the rest of these guys at the top of this list. So he's kind of been overperforming. You look at him against the Rockies this season, he's only averaging 9 DraftKings points across 3 starts against them. Yes, pitching some of those at Coors Field doesn't help, but he certainly hasn't been anything special in this matchup. So I'm pretty concerned about him, have no interest in rostering him, and he's going to have to show it to me before I can trust him again.
Okay, Pierce, $9,200 is what he will cost you. How much do you trust him?
Well, there are a couple ways of looking at this. Regression had to come, but this could be more than regression. This could be him just wearing down into a long season. And it looks like he is wearing down a little bit. He's losing some control. That's what Dave Roberts said. And as Gary mentioned, that's really the last thing you want is Dave Roberts thinking that your pitcher's wearing down and losing control. It's just going to be real hard for him to score fantasy points. But it's a decent matchup, or maybe a better than decent matchup. The Rockies do not play well on the road, so he has that going for him. And also, we might just be overreacting to 3 games where he's basically just gotten babbipped in the last 3 games. The swinging strike rate is still good. He's just missing a little bit with his pitches. He's not that far off. He doesn't really have to completely fix a lot of things to have a good game against the Rockies. My biggest fear is just Dave Roberts taking it easy on the guy playing for the playoffs.
Jorge Soler went for 33 DK points last night. Can he keep it up tonight against the Tigers, Jules?
Well, he's facing Edwin Jackson, and Edwin Jackson stinks, so there's no real reason to be down on him. The question is if you can fit him in your lineup at 4,700. If we're paying for guys like Carlos Santana or some of our slate-approved picks later, maybe you don't have the space. But if you got $4,700 for an outfielder who is at home facing Edwin Jackson, I don't necessarily hate the play. He's been hot lately. Detroit's bullpen also one of the worst in the league. So, yeah, it's really tough to poke holes in Soler being in a bad spot on this slate.
Pierce, that's your boy, Edwin Jackson.
Yeah, I don't mind playing Jorge Soler or playing one guy to try to get some points against Jackson. That's fine. But this idea that Jackson is terrible is a little bit overblown. If you've been stacking against Jackson this year, it's not really working out for you. If you get 4 runs against him in 6 innings pitched, that's probably not going to win a GPP. Maybe you cash, but you're also going to be in heavy ownership with everybody else. Look at Jackson's games. When you think he has a chance, he actually pitches pretty well, and he's pitched well against Kansas City. You can throw out the last 2 games. That's Minnesota. Of course, Minnesota's going to bash him over the head, but good luck trying to stack a bunch of Minnesota players against Edwin Jackson and fitting them all in your lineup. Jackson is not as bad as the DFS community wants you to believe. Play Soler, that's fine, but Jackson can get the job done tonight.
Gary and Jorge Soler, 33 DK points. I see you freaking out about that Edwin Jackson take, so just go ahead.
Look, I don't get to brag about this a lot because it's not something you want to brag about, but as a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I can tell you straight up, Edwin Jackson sucks. He is awful. He had 2 good starts right out of the chute when he signed with Detroit as a product of the American League Central. And granted, the Royals are not world beaters.
What is the measure for Jackson here? What's a good start and a bad start? We're talking about Edwin Jackson. We're not imagining no hitters.
2 good starts, man. His
4 runs, 6 innings is fine.
Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. Let's just talk about Jorge Soler. Even in a vacuum, no American League batter has a higher expected WOBA since July 1st than Jorge Soler. He's been on absolute fire. Left-handed pitching, right-handed pitching doesn't really matter. And Jackson, 471 WOBA to right-handed bats so far this season. Almost 4 home runs per 9. I don't know if those came in the good or the bad starts, but those are his numbers. I like Jorge Soler a lot tonight, and who's not even the most expensive Royal. Like, Adalberto Mondesi is $500 more expensive than Soler. That makes no sense. So it's not even like he's all that expensive in the grand scheme of a Royals stack.
Guys, less than 2 minutes to go before we get the slate approved. I do want to ask you real quick about J.D. Martinez, who had double-digit points in 6 straight games. Pierce, will he start a new streak tonight because that one just ended?
Yeah, Barrios has been pretty terrible in August. The biggest number I want to point out is he got a 50% strand rate. That means half of the runners that get on base are going to score runs. Yes, J.D. Martinez will start a new streak.
Okay, Gare Bear.
Yeah, I've got no problem with JD. I think at his price point, though, if you're going to pay 5.5, you might as well just get Nelson Cruz or get Cody Bellinger. I just think they're in better spots. Barrios' struggles in August were basically against everybody, but it was more so against left-handed bats than right-handed bats.
Jules, do you drop 5.5 on this guy?
No, I don't, and I'm not against the guys in saying that Martinez can have a fine game, but if I'm going to be spending $5,500, yeah, Nelson Cruz is the first name that pops into my head, like Garion said, among other guys. So, yeah, J.D. Martinez is fine, but he is not worth this elite price tag like some other bats are.
1 minute for slate approved. Who's your lock of the night, Garion?
Jorge Soler.
Julian, who's it going to be for you?
I'm going with Zach Gallen here facing the San Diego Padres. They strike out a lot. Not a good lineup. Give me Zach Gallen. He's been tremendous since coming to the Diamondbacks.
Pierce, you going with Edwin Jackson?
No, I got to go. Do I have a choice at this point?
No, I'm just kidding. You can go with whoever you want.
Jackson.
Okay! A
Nice
man of
job,
his
Pierce.
word. Wow. I like that about you, Pierce. Just taking it to the mat, you know?
New haircut, new you, Pierce.
I love
He
it.
doesn't have to do that much tonight. Just don't set up anything on fire, don't die.
Don't set anything on fire. Don't die. I think we'll see if he can do it.
I will also live by that.
All right,
motto.
this is The Sweat. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back tomorrow at 6. This guy's heading out to California, so he won't be there, but we
I'm gonna
will
drink
be.
some wine.
It's going to be really exciting, so be sure to tune in tomorrow at 6.